All right, welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now, before we go into that conversation, let's have a look at a few other stories and then we will be having that discussion. Now, Kenyan fashion brands have in the past faced credibility challenges, with some questioning their quality and appeal. Now, over time, the industry has been regaining its credibility, but is it a worth investment venture to pour all your savings into? On today's Women in Business, Aworo Dongo talks to Beverly Mawia of Africa Yuva.
On today's Women in Business, we focus on the business of fashion and how African Yuva is enacting itself as a go-to Afrocentric fashion brand in the Kenyan market. My name is Aworo Dongo and this is Women in Business.
African Yuva is a clothing brand for women based in Nairobi. We design and produce outfits for the Kenyan woman. Kenyan brands have grown exponentially in terms of credibility over the years, where we now have people shopping, they're shopping African Yuva, they're shopping Icon, they're shopping, other local brands. Initially, I think there was a bit of a challenge where you'd find people don't really trust Kenyan brands, and Kenyan brands had a reputation of not delivering exactly what they've advertised. But over the recent years, this has really changed, and we are seeing more people buy Kenya, shop Kenya, and also brands are now delivering exactly what they advertise.
What does one need to launch a fashion brand in Kenya?
For you to start a fashion business, you need to know your market. You need to understand your market and what they need. Secondly, you need to have the right skills to be able to, of course, stitch an outfit that meets the market demands, and not just the skills about designing and fashion. You need to have financial skills, you need to have social media skills. So there are a lot of skills that are required to be able to start all this so that you're able to move the product from production all the way to the customer. You also need to have very experienced tailors, a workshop, and also be able to have like the best machines to be able to at least produce faster and produce the right thing.
What was your step-by-step process in setting up your workshop and the fashion business in general, and how long did that take?
First things first, you have to register the business. With eCitizen these days, it's pretty easy to just go to eCitizen, create an account, and then you can do your name search, and bam, you've registered your business. And the registration fee is pretty affordable, I think, for any person. And then once you've registered your business, you now start to develop the concepts of your designs. You also need to think about setting up processes for your business, design the concept for your designs, do sampling. So the design work is quite detailed. There's so much to do around that. You need to set up processes for your business, because I think one of the things that I've really learned the hard way about is not setting up processes for your business at the beginning really comes to bite you when you've grown and you have to track everything. So I think that's one of the things that are really important in the beginning, which is setting up structures, processes to ensure the business can run end to end without you necessarily being there. And then of course you need to think about capital. What are you going to need for the initial setup? What do you need to sustain you perhaps for the first 6 months? It's been a long process for me. It took about 3 years, because when I started, I didn't have the capital to be able to, get everything together at the same time. So at the time, what I would do is I would look for tailors with their own workshops and their own established businesses, and then I would subcontract them to stitch the designs for me. So that was around early 2019. And then now over time, I think 2020, that's when I did enough capital to be able to set up my workshop here.
Where does one find the right suppliers or manufacturers for the raw materials for a fashion business?
There's fabric in literally every country in the world, but now depending on what you're sourcing for, China has a huge influx. There are a lot of fabrics you can get from China, and most of the fabrics we actually get locally, you find they're sourced from China. Yeah, so Cameroon, we also get some fabrics from Cameroon, Tanzania. So these are mostly the African prints. There's a growing supply of fabrics locally, where you find a lot of fabrics. You can even find fabrics in Isili, there are fabrics in Nairobi textiles, and the fabrics are of pretty good quality. So personally, I source some fabrics locally, but I also import some from Indonesia and West Africa.
How does one go about marketing their fashion products or their clothing to ensure that there's profit at the end of the day?
You have to look at your target market for starters. Look at what are they willing to pay for a particular product. What value are you giving, or what value are they receiving from buying that product, and then price along that. Secondly, you have to look at your costs, your labor cost, material cost, rent, and all that. You have to account for all that so that at the end of the day, you make a profit. Because I mean, we're in business to make a profit. And then lastly, look at what your competitors are charging so that you also make sure the price that you're charging is competitive to the market rate.
What are the major challenges that you look out for when you're joining the fashion business in Kenya?
So some of the challenges that we faced as African Yuva are, of course, as I mentioned, capital. But this was not a big detriment to me, as I still managed to start with the little that I had. But even then, at this stage, capital is still a big challenge, because you still want to grow further than how you've grown so far. Barriers to entry, to market entry. I think in any industry there are certain barriers to entry where you don't know how to access the market. We're also trying to access markets outside of Africa.
Thank you so much for sitting down with us today. We've surely learned a lot about the business of fashion today. And you out there, if you're looking forward to venture into a fashion business, do not fret. Do not worry so much about too much capital. You can always start with what you have. Now, this has been a beautiful session of Women in Business, and we look forward to having you again. Tune in next time. My name is Awora Dongo for Women in Business.
All right, now picture this. You come